Hey there, Sam with you here midday on a Thursday, February 8th. The next coin members requested per the voting that we do now every day was Substratum. Now this is a comer. We're not quite at the levels that I like to see here. So if we come over here to CoinGecko, you can see it's 43. You know, I tend to prefer coins that are 50 or higher here. And it's weak because we don't have a lot of development interest yet. Right? It's a comer. It's there. We're at a market cap of 141 million. I should emphasize 141 million. Been around for 7 months. So on a relative scale, you know, we've looked at coins over the last couple of days that have been around for 5 to 7 months that are, you know, up over $1 billion and with much higher levels here. You know, is it tradable? Sure, it's tradable, but as a long-term hold, you know, you definitely would want to see these numbers coming up higher. But let's go have a look at the chart. As you can see, limited history here. Now, this is the 4-hour of sub to Bitcoin on Binance. So, you know, I mean, so you could make, perhaps you could make an argument here that you know this was, you know, prior to this big sell-off, you know, you might have been looking at this as your 3, giving you the size of that move there. But given the depth here, now it's a little bit easier with hindsight to look at this, and we can kind of check it, things that we would normally do if we were trying to identify the third. So if we pull from the 1, you can see it's to the tick, to the 2618. So that gives me fairly good confidence, regardless of what happens here, that this is our third. All right, so that's a common extreme for a third. And then we would, of course, just measuring, we'd look for the relationship between the length of the third, looking for a fourth, and you can see we come right to the 618, and then, you know, we get even to, you know, through the negative 100 here, almost to the negative 1618. So clearly a big power move into the fifth. So where does that leave us? Well, okay, of course, just you know, basics here. We're just go for, well, come here. We get from our low here, completed 5-wave structure. So potentially we've got a 2 in here, 3, 4, 5. Let's raise that degree, change the color. Yeah, so it makes a little more sense. We'll go up to intermediate so you can see it. Okay, so is that a good 2? Well, we've got, you know, some choppiness here. Do we have potentially a good 2? Well, let's measure it. Same thing we would normally do. We know a 2 can be anywhere from the 50 to the 786. So here we go 786 to the tick. So again, I think where the challenge is here is dealing with the depth here, in the complexity here within this correction. It's, you know, we can see a 3-wave structure here. Granted, now I'm in the 4-hour, so we can see an A right into the golden pocket. We get the reaction, but then it rolls over again. So now, you know, we know we're going to fight some resistance going up because algos will have flipped right here when it gets to the other side. So what are they going to be doing? We know we have to fight through that resistance to get back, you know, to challenge those highs and head toward a completed Elliott count. If that's going to continue to play as a 1 wave, and we're going up to a 3 that would be much, much higher. So knowing we've got some resistance on the way back up, knowing that this is a, you know, potentially a very technical pivot. Now let's just see can we build any more evidence here to consider it. So we might look at this and say, okay, well, here's the obvious thing. Well, here that looks like that we know that went right to the golden zone. We got potentially a B, and then we're down here potentially for a C. So let's get that up here. Put that in yellow so we can see it a little bit better. So we know we're sitting right at the 786. So it's, from an Elliott perspective, it's perfectly valid. So we can look here and say, okay, well, how about the B wave? So what do we get here? So you can see here we come up, here's the 38, down we go, here up, push into the 50. We get right in that sweet spot. You know, B would be similar to a 2 in that the range is from the 50 to the 786. Well, we get right in between the 2. Down we go. Where's the algo target? Right here. So that's likely a front run. So now if you put those two together, right, so if we go back to what we had just shown here. So we look here and we look at that as a pivot. Now we get this very tight little cluster down here. And that's what we call confluence. So we have the algo target, we have the 786 that plays as a second wave. So this as an ABC, you see some complexity here. Now that doesn't guarantee that that's our low, but this looks like the first test of it, that holds. So for that to potentially start to turn impulsive, we're going to need to see a pretty good move here for this to extend up to give us a third, anticipating that we're going to get the retracement. So we would be looking for this and then one more move up, and then we'd know we'd have an impulsive move off of this technical pivot. All right, 1, 2, deep 2, no doubt about it. So this needs to get legs here to give us a potential third. We anticipate the fourth. So if you're not in it now, you're kind of chasing here. Now, granted, we can go down to the 1 hour and take a closer look at that, but now as I said previously, now that we've established we have a good technical pivot there, we know we're going to have, I guess I can do it this way, we're going to have resistance on the way back up. So for this to fully get towards those upper targets, this is the resistance we got to get through, because we know we're going to have algos that will be selling there. So maybe we get the 3 there. That would play beautifully. That would be a pretty big 3. Relative to this is the 1, 2, but it's a contender. 3, down we go for the 4, up for the 5. So if you see, so what would we have there? Then we would just have the 1 wave potentially of the third. So if we put that on top of it, if I can get this hot, so potentially we'd have the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, right? So get that, lower the degree so it makes sense. We'll go down to a minuet. Okay. Do you see what we're trying to do? We're trying to build a roadmap here. So right now we just have a push off of a technical low, the first retest, which holds. All right, they don't break it. So a 1, potentially a deep 2. Right? We can't be overly confident about that, because we know that there's going to be, well, we can just look at it right here. We know this is one we're going to fight through from this pivot here. So what they do is, this was the last pivot. They got their target. So now we're going to draw from the last place that they worked from. So we got to get through this and this, right, to get them to flip to the other side. So do you understand what happens here? So we've got multiple resistance levels to get through. Here's the first one. We got to get through this window, because there will be algorithms written to sell that right there off of this pivot. Swing the B here down to this low. It's got to get through it. Just because there's an algorithm there doesn't mean you can't get through it. Right? It just means that you're going to anticipate some resistance there. If we get through it, good sign. So now, again, maybe we push up here 1, 2, 3. Maybe it doesn't get there. It stops at the 50. So we'd be looking like this. So that could be that actually to scale in terms of the symmetry. That looks like that could play better. So maybe we get something like that, because there's going to be algos they're selling at the 50 from the swing high to the low. So now, again, this is just, you're trying to anticipate what the algorithms are going to do, so you can just kind of get in behind them. If we can get a 5-wave structure here, well, then we've got a 1. Even if we hit the 1 right at the 50, well, the next move here is that we're going to look for the next 50. Right? So we're going to pull from this low. If, again, I'm hypothesizing here, if we get up to the 50, well, here's the opportunity to buy it if you want to stay on the bullish side, right? Which we do. We want to stay with that. So, it was set up right here just perfectly. So if you're not in it now, a lot of things have to happen here to get that to set up for the 2. Is it worth it? I mean, is this one to keep on your radar? Well, if this is going to play as a 1-2, right? As we've shown this many times, right? Are we going to get the big run here? Is 2018 going to be a big year for crypto? Well, here's the 1-2. We know that the potential for the third, as I've shown you many times, that the 1618, which is the most likely candidate, if this is going to play as a 1-2, is the contender. That would be the target for the third. That will be very close to the negative 100. So, now you put it in terms of what we're trying to get. Worth it? Worth it to keep this one on your radar? That's the third. Put the stop on the 786, 16 to 1. You tell me. What else again, as I will often say, why would you not take that trade? You're worried about getting stopped out? You're worried about getting stopped out and you're trading? You got to get over that. You're going to get stopped out way more often than you're not. So just accept that going into it. You can't. Stop is just part of it. You just, okay, stop. What do we learn from the stop? The danger is not having the stop, which a lot of people are realizing in crypto right now, given the sell-off. You're a trader, all of a sudden you're a long-term holder. Stops are there to protect you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there's the 1. That's the next trade. If you want to be more conservative, let this show itself as a 1 wave, knowing you've got that resistance 2. Let it establish, wait for the 2. You're not missing anything. If you wait for that 1 and look for the 2, you're looking for a 16 to 1. So don't feel like you have to force it in here now. Let this establish. Let it show that you've got a 1 wave coming out of that, and that's the good low. Because nothing says that we can't go back down here, right? That's their target, right? So from swing high to swing low, if we get to that 50, there's an algorithm looking for that all the way back down to the low. Again, that's why you use a stop. Okay, guys, I'll stop it there.